What's up? What's up, everybody? Thank y'all for coming out to our live show here today. What a fun crowd. This is legitimately one of my favorite nights of the entire year as we get to sit here and wait, because you know what's happening tonight, Jay?
Real football.
Real freaking football. It's about time. We can stop talking about speculation. We can stop talking about, well, actually we can't. It's still kind of the offseason. We're still dragged into the offseason to the last possible second. That's a fun thing that we're going to do tonight, by the way. We have an actual Ja'Marr Chase jersey here. And if Ja'Marr signs before this show ends, somebody's going to get it.
Yeah.
Because we're going to need something for you guys to be focusing on while we all have to write stories real quickly about Ja'Marr signing during our show. It was during this show last year, Jay, that Joe Burrow decided to drop his contract out there and pretty much ruin a good half an hour of our big fun night. But everybody, they waited right to the end. We did get to finish first. So maybe this will be the night. Maybe this will be the night that Ja'Marr Chase signs his contract, and somebody here will get a Ja'Marr Chase jersey if that happens. But tonight's show is about so much more than that, isn't it?
It is.
It is about our cavalcade of guests, media stars, if you will, that we have here that are going to show up, and we're going to talk. We have this thing we do on the road on Saturday nights.
Yeah, Pops.
Pops. Well, yeah, we do. We do Pops. We've got those. When we have Pops, we have Take Workshop.
Yeah.
Takes that we've been thinking about, takes we've been working on about the season. And it's the perfect way to frame a season preview show by everybody working on their takes. So we're going to bring all of our guests that we have. They're going to be coming up in little segments. And we're going to get their takes, and we're going to talk through it and see if they're good takes or poor takes. And if you don't like the takes, you need to let these people know it. Tell them when they have bad takes.
There were bad takes last year.
There were a lot of bad takes. Have we gone back through last year's tape and checked out some of the worst of the takes? Because there were some bad ones.
There's a couple right off the top. I believe one of our colleagues predicted the Bengals would go 15-2.
Yep.
That didn't quite work out.
I did predict them to win the Super Bowl, and I've regretted it ever since.
That one as well.
There were a number. I think we really need to hold people to these.
Yes.
And they really should have to wear them at all times. It should be in like a social media bio or something like that, I feel like.
Like a Cincy shirt that says, "My hot take sucked."
My hot take was bad. Or it just says, "My name is Trags, and I picked the Bengals to go 15-2 and win the Super Bowl." Also a great idea. We love you, Trags. All right. We are going to start off tonight's show by bringing in two esteemed members of the Cincinnati media that have been here almost as long as I have, which is hard. But they are two members leading the Fox 19 coverage, the flagship at Fox 19, Joe Danneman and Jeremy Rauch. Let's hear it for them.
Let's hear it.
Look at them. So strong, wearing the gear everywhere you go, still representing Fox 19. Thank you guys for joining us.
Of course. Happy to be here. I'm excited. I just in the last 5 seconds thought of my best take, and I think it's going to be a good one. So I'm excited.
All right. Are you coming in hot? You're ready to fire it off? Give us your hottest Bengals take for the 2024 season. Let's go. Put the one that's going to make them mad first. Just go ahead and just start it off.
Oh, no. That's the player I'm like buying and selling portion. This is not
okay.
this. Okay.
All right.
So here's my best take. Has nothing to do with football.
You're aware what people are here for.
I get it. What annoyed most of the NFL last year? It was Taylor Swift and Travis Kelsey. Here's my best take. Joe Burrow is going to date a celebrity this year.
Don't put that on us.
Do you have a celebrity in mind?
I don't have a celebrity in mind off the top of my head. Joe knows celebrities better than I do. Name a good one.
Well, I've always said I think he's going to go the model route next.
Yeah.
That kind of seems like the next level up in the progression of the Tom Brady pantheon.
Yeah.
When you start leveling up towards Tom Brady, you got to go model next.
I think Joe Burrow, I think it's time. You know, it's part of the Joe Burrow glow up, the comeback season. again, you guys can boo me all you want, but I can only tell you what my station would do. My job, my work would change dramatically if it happened. I don't want it to happen, but I could see it happening.
I think that model would be Giselle, and that might actually be cool.
Oh, there's the hot
Can
take.
we just, if you're going to do it, if you're going to bring this into our lives and you're going to take us to that dark place, go all the way in and take Brady's ex.
I'll go white hot. Livy Dunn. Doesn't work
Wow.
out. Doesn't
It's
work
the
out.
LSU thing. I get it.
LSU thing.
I
People are
get
like,
it.
oh my goodness, no way.
And suddenly, just when you didn't think it could happen, the Cincinnati-Pittsburgh rivalry goes up a second as Paul Skeens is left at the altar, and Livy Dunn is in the suite. Wow. All right, good start.
Hot take.
Excellent start. Joe D, do you have your favorite take?
Okay, so mine's not nearly as fun here, and I was thinking about this. And let's be understanding here of local TV guys. We don't live really in a world where we get to give a lot of hot takes. A lot of our stuff is measured, giving news, running sound bites, running interviews. So for me to have a take takes a lot. Just thought of that myself. Here's my take, okay? Here's a take for the Bengals season. Mike Gesicki will finish with more touchdowns in the month of September than Jamar Chase.
All right.
Wow.
All right. Ooh, that got a reaction.
It's a hot take.
That's a hot take. That got a
Here's my
reaction.
hot take. I'll give just a little bit of an explainer to this. They're going to force feed him one Sunday because it's the Patriots, his former team. The Bengals, it should
Force feed?
should be a layup against New England. I said it should be a layup against New England for the Bengals. They're going to find a way to get him a touchdown against his former team. And then you start talking about the other opponents they play early in the season, and there should be 2 more easy wins. And then a Kansas City team who likes to put a bullseye right on Jamar Chase ever since he went for 250-plus against them at Paycor Stadium, and they won the division championship. So ever since then, they've zeroed in on Jamar Chase as the guy they don't want to beat them. Now, I know L'Jarius Sneed's not there anymore, but that does give a chance there for Joe Burrow and Mike Gesicki to work the middle of the field against Kansas City. Then you got Washington. Then you got Carolina, teams that he should be able to score against. Hot take, pounding the table for it.
Pound it.
Mike Gesicki scores more touchdowns in September than Jamar Chase.
Okay.
How many touchdowns is that?
There we go. There we go.
3.
3?
I think the number's 3. I think Jamar will have 2.
Wow, okay.
In the first month, just in the first month. And
Well-
again, too, Jamar is ramping up, right? Now, I know all the guys can say inside the locker room, Jamar's been doing everything he can to be ready, and that Jamar will be Jamar when it's week 1 if we expect him to play, as we do against New England. But there still is a ramp up to playing football again. The guy hasn't played a football game since January. And let's be understanding of that. So it's not like, and listen, he'll catch 6 balls for 100 yards and a touchdown against New England, and I'll look like an idiot. But if we're going to put a hot take out there, that's my reason why.
Well, also, the Gesicki thing is interesting to me because he's the one piece that I think they're really interested to see how opposing defenses treat him, which is usually as a receiver. But I feel like they have a plan that's going to be new to defenses, where defenses have, okay, we know how we take care of or try to take care of Jamar and T and the way that their offense operates. But now when it operates a little differently, it could take some time for defenses to adjust to some of the new weapons that are going to have this offense looking slightly different, which does support your take a little more. I like that, especially in the red zone.
I'm a bit buoyed, too, by his performance against the Colts in the joint practice. Now, it was a pretty quiet camp for Mike Gesicki. I thought he would make more splash plays when they were doing 11 on 11. Didn't do a lot of that. But once they brought in a new opponent, and it wasn't raining like it was in Chicago.
Oh, the dreaded rain.
He ate against the Colts. He was number 2 target. Now, I know Jamar wasn't out there. T. Higgins was the best skill position player on the field. But Mike Gesicki was number 2 for Joe Burrow after that. That's why seeing that, having that little bit of eye candy that I saw in that joint practice against the Colts has me thinking Mike Gesicki, hot start in Cincinnati.
Like that.
Let's not forget, too, that Zach is a player's coach, and we've seen him do this before. The game in Arizona last year where they got the pass to Kamari yes, because that's where his dad played, and they do stuff like that. You don't want to force it early; it can't be top of mind of the game plan. But if this game, which is entirely possible, is out of hand in the fourth quarter and they're down in the red zone, I could absolutely see 3 straight targets for Gesicki to try to get him a touchdown against his former team.
And that's one I'm banking on. It's like you're playing euchre, right? When you pick up the right, you're like, I got the jack. Okay, I know that's my trump card, that he is going to score week 1 because of that reason. So I'm banking it off that and going forward that Gesicki is going to have a big month.
I do think that Joe Burrow is going to want to warm up with some quickies, and I think that Gesicki is that guy to get him going. I
Quickie
honestly think
Gesicki.
Deep shot immediately.
Well, that'd be fun, but I don't see it happening.
I like the idea. I like the idea of opening it up on play 1. Just go. Just go. Do you guys have any other takes, or are you ready to go directly to a player that you're buying and selling? I want to make sure you get all your takes off. I don't want you to feel like anything got left.
I unloaded my best one right there.
That's your best.
I came in with the idea that I wanted to be fun, and I think it was fun.
It was fun.
And I think a lot of my takes will fit in the buy sell.
I don't want to be the guy that like next year, because it's not just about here. It's not about you here booing me with my take. In the media room, it plays out. Oh, Jeremy said this.
Yeah,
I
often.
don't need that.
Yeah.
I work for the flagship. I got to be about business all the time.
The ship, it's a different level when you're there. All right, let's go player that you are either most buying or selling. I'll let you go either direction on this. Player that you are most buying or selling.
This is probably a layup, but I'm buying Andre Josevich, and I think he's going to have the kind of season that, and I don't want to say this in a negative way, that not that he makes people forget about Tyler Boyd, but that people see, okay, this is what it can look like with a younger guy who's a little more dynamic with a little more speed in that spot. I think it's going to be the full version of what this offense was always supposed to be with a guy like that in that spot. I also love the fact that we saw this throughout camp, that he basically has been running Jamar Chase's routes at times with Jamar outs. He's shown how versatile he can be. I think that he's going to have a fantastic season. And if you were to ask me who I would lock down a touchdown for on Sunday, I think Andre Josevich is leader in the clubhouse for touchdown number 1.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
number
fair.
one.
Number one.
First one of the season.
We are at BetMGM. If you want to go
There it
right
is.
I don't know what it is.
First,
Probably-
lay it down.
There's
That's gotta be
definitely a
about
first
I'll
touchdown
just
bet
tell
that
you
can be made.
600.
Hey, I'm going to just tell you right now, like sometimes I just see things in the future and they happen, and I can see Andre jumping into the stands.
Jumping into the
I can see what part of the field it's on.
Is that where you're making sure you're there so you can line up the shot?
I got to be in the press box. He's on the field on Sunday, unfortunately, but I can just see him jumping in the stands, celebrating those beautiful like Hawaiian locks just flowing down. Girls are like, "Oh my gosh, are you married? Are you dating anyone?"
Joe, just trying to get everybody wiped up here, man.
Joe, would you ever position yourself based on one of Jeremy's like crystal ball moments?
You want a fun game to watch from the press box?
Yeah.
I used to do this during AJ Green time. I don't do as much now because T and Jamar are both there. So whenever the Bengals had the ball in the red zone during the AJ Green years, I'd be in the back of the end zone right by the goalpost. And whatever side AJ ran to, I would run to that side.
Love it.
And so by the time they were done inside the red zone, I was completely worn out. So that didn't really answer your question. But let me tell you, this guy, he sees things. I'm telling you. He's got a feel about these things. I call it clean living. This guy lives a clean life. And so a lot of things go his way. So I'm going to find where Andre is in the red zone on Sunday and test this theory.
If I'm wrong, just please forget this.
It's okay.
Yoshi is plus 1,400 to score the first touchdown.
1,400.
Plus 1,400.
Hey, right there.
The cage.
$10, you're leaving with 140.
Absolutely. You may go home with some bonus bets. You can just put that thing right down right now. Why not?
Do you want player I'm selling and then both the Joes?
I'm gonna get me buying. Not that we're taking.
I'm gonna get booed for mine.
Okay, I want to go with the player I'm buying right now.
Who you buying?
The player I'm buying is Sheldon Rankins.
There you go.
And I haven't had a chance to talk to Sheldon Rankins, and I love this. I love veterans who don't like talking to the media.
Yeah.
And you kind of finally wear them down. And you finally get them to talk. And he talked today for the first time. And I saw everything that this guy's about and wants to be about on the football field. And you go back to what the Bengals have been missing here for several years, even though they have so many boxes checked with all the stars on the team. They haven't had the difference-making tight end, who I've talked about here, and they haven't had the inside pass rusher like they're going to have with Sheldon Rankins. I remember being on the field last year against Houston when the Bengals lost the game at Paycor Stadium saying, who is this guy and why can't they block him? I think he had 6 sacks last year, and half of them were against the Bengals. Yeah. And so I was asking him today, in fact, what kind of a first impression do you want to make in Cincinnati? He hasn't played in any preseason games. I almost stopped myself and said, you made quite the first impression here last year when you came in here and just wreaked havoc inside the Bengals backfield. I think he has the right temperament. I think he has the right position. I think he has the right body build and skill set to be what this team needed from an inside pass rusher. And I think he's the guy who's going to exceed expectation maybe more than anybody else on the team this year.
Remember when the Bengals had Sheldon Reagans in for their free agent visit, and the first thing he asked Zach Taylor when he got here is, why didn't you double team me last year?
And he's right.
Because he is right. And I'm buying everything that guy's selling. He was fantastic at his opening press conference, and today talking to him in the locker room, just incredible. You just believe everything he's telling you.
He said to us, I said, what kind of a player are you? He said, I'm the kind of guy that when I put my hand on the ground, the guy across from me knows he's going to get hell for 60 minutes. And when you get that kind of guy, and you know what he also said too, I thought was interesting, because we all kind of pinned this guy as a pass rusher from the middle. He basically said, I want to prove that I can play both run and pass as a defensive tackle. And certainly he has to go out and prove that he could be a difference maker on both ways on defense. But certainly what he brings to them as a pass rusher in the middle, that's the guy I'm buying this year as a big difference maker for the Bengals. That might not be on that A list of stars that people look at when they look at the Bengals.
Not to pile on Rankin's quotes, but to piggyback on that a little bit, he mentioned something that Dennis Allen taught him young in his career, when he was young in his career, and he said, all we have on defense is fear. We could create fear. They're going to give them all the rules and all the advantages on offense to do whatever they want. We have fear, and that's the way he lives, to try to strike fear into an opponent. I love that. Love that.
And I really enjoyed just the little time we've had with him. And the two times I've tried to talk to him, he kind of looked at me like, nah, man, I ain't about that.
No.
And he said today, he's like, look, I don't talk much. He said, there are probably players on this team who haven't heard more than 5 words from me. And I think he might be right with that. But if he backs it up with what he said today and the way he delivered it, I think the Bengals are getting a difference maker.
All right, let's. Do you have anything else you want to fire off here?
I'm ready for player I'm selling.
Go with the player you're selling. Let's get it out.
All right. Are you guys listening? Or did you guys just tune me out for a second here? The player I'm selling on is BJ Hill.
What?
There it is. Wow.
You're going to get booed no matter who you say.
Who can I say?
You can't.
Who can I say?
You're going to get
Like I say, Trent Brown, you guys would probably cheer. But nonetheless, probably would have been easy. I'm not going to go easy, though, okay? I don't want it to be easy.
Why?
Here's the thing. BJ Hill, I think that we have said things without naming names the last year or so. Okay, BJ Hill has made some very important plays in recent years in this franchise's history. Obviously, some massive plays that helped them get to the biggest game of all. But when we talk about last year, we talk about the run defense, how much this team struggled. We talk about it. I understand DJ Reader had injury issues. But we talk about this year, we talk about concerns. And it's almost to me like BJ Hill just kind of gets a pass. I think he's a guy that is meant to have a role on this team, but I think it's ballooned to bigger than it actually is. People thinking that he should be more than he is. He's a guy who has a role, who is important, a voice in the locker room. But when the team is struggling and one of the worst run defenses in the league, he kind of gets a pass because people like him. To me, that's why I'm selling him.
Well, I always thought BJ Hill was at his best with Larry Ogunjobi. Like,
agreed.
He is a great rotational player, or even a starter, but not somebody who they have asked him to play too much.
That's it.
And I thought that was why there's so much to me on Chris Jenkins. He is being brought in to not ask Sheldon Rankins to do too much and not ask BJ Hill to have to do too much. So you're getting more when they are actually out there. It's so critical. And that's why I also think they partially missed in free agency by not really getting another defensive tackle to come in, and instead, just going to the draft with the 2 guys that they did. And now you're counting on young guys to have to come in immediately and cover that. I think you're right. I just think that all of those guys need to be in the 600 snap range and not have 2 of them up in the 800 to 1,000, because then you're going to end up in a lot of trouble, and I worry about them even finishing the season.
That's the thing. Is I feel like he has that role, that rotational role, and it doesn't mean he's a bad player. I think he's a good player. I just think that there's been too much made of him and what he is supposed to be in the eyes of some fans, And that's why I'm selling on him, because I don't think he's really lived up to those expectations.
All right, you have angered people enough. I certainly appreciate it. It was very well done. Quickly, let's fire off your season prediction. Go ahead and give me your record and where they end up in the postseason.
Look, we're the ship now, PDJ.
You're
What
the
am
ship.
I supposed to say?
There's only one thing you can say.
All right,
Undefeated Super Bowl run is upon you.
I'm going to hedge. I'm going to say 12-5. Do not win the division at 12-5, surprisingly enough.
Ravens
get it.
Okay.
Bengals win the Super Bowl.
There you go. Hey! Look, you just see, now you know how to make friends.
You
Rest
saved
assured.
your entire appearance
Yes.
with 2 words. Super Bowl.
That's right.
That was the whole
Bring them
thing.
down, bring them down,
was the
bring
whole-
them down, only for the hammer at the end. Unbelievable.
Well,
Jody,
we all know the Ravens can't win in the playoffs, and even when they have a chance to make the Super Bowl, they abandon who they are and stop running the ball against the Chiefs in the AFC title.
Wow. All right. This isn't a Ravens show. Back up. Joe, what do you got?
Okay, so I'm going straight to my season predictions.
Go to season predictions.
Okay, season predictions, I say 11 or 12 wins, either way right there. And listen, this is, the word hedge. We all get it, right? The AFC, if Joe Burrow plays 17 games, the Bengals are going to the playoffs. We saw last year, Joe Burrow only played half a season. They still won 9 games and almost still went to the playoffs. So if Joe Burrow plays 17 games, they're going. And then once you get into the AFC tournament, if you want to go ahead and try to split the hairs of the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Ravens, and whoever else, the Texans who might be on the come up, good luck. You can explain it to me. It's whoever plays better that day once you get to the playoffs. It's a cop-out. I get it. But if Joe Burrow plays a whole season, Bengals go to the playoffs. They're in the tournament with all these teams in the AFC that have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. I don't know how to separate
Pick
them.
one, Joe. Pick one.
It's okay. It's okay. You can cop out.
I'll stop
allow
there.
It. I'll allow it. I think it's always get to the divisional round and then hope it's your year.
Hope it's
I think
your-
you want to have a team that consistently can get there, because once you get there, wild things happen. Nobody quite knows how it's going to go. But at some point, you have to topple Patrick Mahomes.
If I can ask you one question here on that, and it's the subject of the playoffs, Jay and Paul, and the understanding that these early season games matter. We talk about fast starts and the Bengals playing week 2 in Kansas City. How important do you think home field advantage is to Joe Burrow and the Bengals? That if we're talking about margins here, and the Bengals are getting into the playoffs and they're playing the Kansas Cities and the Baltimores and the Houstons, do you think that is the difference maker in a team making the playoffs and making a run, or a team that's going to go to the Super Bowl? How important do you think week 2 is for this team and that difference of having home playoff games?
I think it's important, but I think it's a want and not a need. We've seen Joe Burrow win in the playoffs. They've never won a road playoff game until he got here, and now they've won 3. So I think they can do it. He's the only AFC quarterback that's ever beat Mahomes in the playoffs. They would love to have home field advantage, but I don't think it's a prerequisite to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a want. I think it's a message you can send in week 2 for sure.
Yeah.
That you're you still have this. You still are the one that can beat Patrick Mahomes no matter what. I think that is probably playing in the back of their head if they meet again wherever in the AFC Championship game would be a big part of that. Jeremy Rauch, Joe Danneman, let's hear it for him, everybody. Fox 19.
Thank you.
Guys.
Make sure you're
Thank
watching the ship. They've got all the good stuff all year. All right, if you need a beer, make sure you get one. We are going to bring up 2 more here in a second, and Mark's going to remind everybody, in case you showed up late, about what all we've got going on, because we've got tons of stuff happening here tonight. Make sure you get your graders and all your good giveaways. All right, our next guest, esteemed guest, great friends of the program, of the Growler. Let's hear it from Local 12, Richard Skinner. Come on. You're somebody to me.
I don't care.
And from the Enquirer, Charlie Goldsmith. Let's hear it for good time, Charlie. We just had Joe and Jeremy up here, and they had some takes that they were offering. When we do take workshop on Saturday nights on the road, you guys are you care about it. It matters, I feel like. Charlie especially, it matters to you to have good takes on the road.
Got 2 rules for the take workshop: show up on time and protect the team.
That's right.
And I usually just over imbibe, and so I have no idea where my takes came from.
Yeah, exactly. We have to remind you of your takes the next day.
Exactly.
Let's start here. Let's go. What's your best take? What's your favorite take that you're feeling, Skinny, right now? You started off.
Yeah, that probably before the first half ends, Trent Brown will puke at least one time. I think he's praying to God that it stays 72 degrees and not hotter, which is a good thing. So yeah, that's take number 1.
Hold on. Can we get that on the board? Trent Brown first half puke. What's the odds on that?
I think it's an
Plus
in-game bet.
2,100. It looks like, yeah. First half puke. I don't know. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good start. Charlie, what's your first take?
The Bengals lead the league with the number of players who have at least 200 receiving yards. The more I hear Dan Pitcher talk, the more I'm very confident and kind of philosophically something he's passionate about, which is specific roles for specific players. Like, I never thought it was going to work out for Chris Evans in the role everyone wanted him to play, but I wonder if with someone with unique, almost gadget skill set like that, kind of like Eric All has now, or Jermaine Burton later in the year, Yoshi Vosh, a primary slot receiver, but we'll see him in a variety of different roles. Chase Brown out of the backfield, Zach Moss in there as well. I just think so many guys are going to have featured targets at some point this season.
200's a low bar.
Well, yeah, but a lot of guys.
The most.
How many guys?
So like all 4 tight ends.
Well, let's go with all the guys
Burrow
named,
Okay.
the other day. Yeah, sure. All right, 4 tight ends.
Yep.
5 receivers, 2 running backs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot. I'm here for it. We were just talking to Dan Pitcher about this. I mean, and he was saying specifically, you can weigh the pros and cons of whether you want to have the same guys that are consistently out there and getting those same reps and banking those reps. He said, I prefer to have a lot of different guys out there that game plan week in, week out, beginning of game to end of game, can adjust better on the fly to get different personnel involved in different ways, which plays directly to your point. I mean, I think he's made that clear. That's his objective. That's where he would like to see this end. Now, we'll see if it does, because, it's one thing to say that, and it's another thing if Andre Yosevash comes out and is just torching people out of the slot. You could see him saying, what am I going to do? Take him off the field? And all of a sudden you end up in a similar spot that you have been. I think it'll evolve because their offense always does, but I think you're in the right place. I think if Dan Pitcher was sitting here, he would say that might be my number 1 goal this year.
It's also a sign that Jamar and T are great. It's a sign that I think this offense has a lot of interest in expanding beyond being Jamar and T dominant. And I think a big criticism of the Bengals offense in 2023 was how reliant they were on both of them. And then the fact that it felt like they never had, 1, a plan, or 2, the personnel to be double-double, and teams threw both guys at both of those receivers. I remember this one angle route they kept trying for Tanner Hudson against the Chiefs in the biggest game of the year. And it's like, Tanner Hudson's made a very nice career, but I don't love the idea of designing 7 plays for Tanner Hudson, the biggest game of the year. Now, maybe 2 plays for Tanner, 2 plays for Eric All, a couple plays for Trenton Irwin. You bite away at the apple with depth that really complements each other. It feels like everyone on this depth chart's here for a reason.
True or false? A player on the roster, or a player that's not on the 53-man roster right now, will also get 200 yards receiving.
I mean, Shedrick Jackson, man. That's our guy. That's our guy.
I'm going to say no, but
I'm going to say no too. But if there's a guy,
but
that's
I like
my
the
guy.
spirit.
Cole Burgess.
Yeah,
There's no way around.
He's been
my
your guy. I know he's
made
been
his
your
little
guy.
practice
No.
squad. Made my heart go a flutter. Not
Cute.
gonna lie.
It's cute and all. I like him. He's a nice
He's
little
got
guy.
his practice squad.
He's got his practice squad. He'll
Uh,
always have that. So did Marvell Tell.
Always have that. Why you gotta?
I
why
just
you gotta let Marvell Tell catch a stray here? That's unnecessary. All right. Do you have another take that you'd like to fire off?
No,
Steve?
I mean, to your point, I remember the day in, I think it was the joint practice where we saw that 2 tight end set, like in 3rd and 1-ish. They were running some short yardage with Drew Sample and Eric All. And we both went, ooh.
Yep.
And I think that shows you have a package for that. You have a package for maybe 4 wide. You have a screen game now that I think is going to be way, way more dynamic with Chase Brown being the recipient of that. And back to Charlie's point, I think that's where you start to look at this. You go, okay, is Eric All going to have 202 yards or 500 or probably 202 yards? Same for Drew Sample, 280 yards, but it all adds up in piecemeals. And I do think, to what Dan talked about to us the other day, look, would you rather have the 3 receivers he had and Joe Mixon in his prime and just say those are our guys? Absolutely. But when you don't, I think you piecemeal it together, and I think they've done a really good job of that, especially with the roster.
I don't know that you do, though, because shout out, Tyler Boyd, great Bengals career. I hated the idea that whenever they tried to put Jamar in the slot, they just felt like they were banging their head against the wall. They got to week 5 every year, and it's like, wait, we have these new wrinkles with Chase, but we're just not doing right by Boyd, and that led to them, all right, we're just going to let Tyler do what he does best. There's a less emotional piece of it with this approach that just gives you more flexibility for your best player that you didn't have.
Yeah, I just want to see with Jamar not having reps in training camp, what that looks like with him in the slot.
I'm particularly interested also in the impact of Justin Riscati in the fact that he can bring the Justin Jefferson package. When you have a star
Scheme to the
receiver,
star.
scheme to the star. Minnesota did such a good job of finding ways to work Justin Jefferson into matchups down the field. Not, so much of what they've done when they've tried to get cute with Jamar ends in a bubble screen or something like that. Get him down the field when you're working him open. And I think that 10 to 19 yard middle of the field is something that I think they want Joe Burrow to live and pepper teams on this year. If you're going to play the deep 2 shell, guess what? We're going to find ways to scheme Gesicki. They've never really had a tight end that can take advantage of it.
Space.
I remember when they tried to throw the ball over the top to Drew Sample against the Ravens.
That doesn't work.
That's not.
I blame that pick on
Drew's
Duke.
a fine player, but you throw that to Mike Gesicki, he makes the catch. You scheme it to him. You have that scheme to Jamar Chase, and suddenly you've got something a little more dynamic. The play against Tampa Bay in the preseason, the one starter's drive, Andre Yosevich flying across the middle, peppering that middle and taking it down the field. That, I think, is the new element of finding ways to get them into those matchups, and that can be a part of the field they've never really taken full advantage of, specifically in terms of Jamar when they're moving him around.
Exactly. And I mean, they want to lean more into the screen game. I don't think it's ever going to go back to 2021 with the deep game the way it was. So that's where you have to make that improvements in the intermediate. I was just rolling through trying to look and see what the record is. You got to go a long way back. But the most I can find back to 2000, there was 8 guys that had more than 200 yards, and it was probably the worst season the Bengals had in that time. And that was the 2019 with Zach's first year when they were 2-14. But I like the take. I mean, I really do think that could happen this year.
I think John Ross did that in the first 2 games, maybe the first game.
First game, yeah.
John Ross still hanging around, trying. Teams are still like,
he still ran a 4.22.
No, he was fast.
I've realized that being like that fast is like being a left-handed reliever in baseball. It's like teams will just keep giving you more chances.
They'll keep giving you
until
chances.
the stopwatch goes, oh, wow, he's at 4.45 now. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming.
exactly. All right. Do you have another take that you want to fire off? What do you got?
I think aggressiveness is going to be kind of the theme of the Bengals defense this year. So I'm predicting Mike Hilton have a career-high 5 sacks, and I'm predicting the Bengals to lead the AFC in picks. Now, the Bengals actually were one off the AFC lead in picks last year, which I didn't realize until I went back through that. And they didn't even have a playmaker like Geno Stone is now.
Right.
Add in Mike Hilton to this. I have a question whether it's going to be first half Mike Hilton or second half Mike Hilton that the Bengals get this season. However, while he has to prove what he is in coverage, I'm very confident in the pressure packages that he'll still be able to bring to the table. So I think he'll create havoc there. The new guys will create havoc on the back end. The corners are great with the ball in the air. Lead the AFC in picks.
Like that. I was looking at 2015. In the 2015 season, they had 21 interception, which is far and away the most had in recent years. When you play with the lead a lot and you have guys that know how to pick the ball off, you can end up that number going up in a hurry. And specifically this first month of the season, I know Joe and Jeremy were talking about some of the dynamics of the first month. Defensively, these are teams with quarterback issues that you should be able to get leads on. You could see that INT total get up in a hurry. Maybe that's a good over-under. Bengals interceptions in 4 September games. What will that number be? I mean, I think you could easily see that be in the 7-8 range.
Yeah.
When you're talking about Bryce Young and Jacoby Brissett, and maybe they get one off Mahomes and whatever you're going to see from Jaden Daniels on Monday Night Football. you can get that number up in a hurry and get all the confidence going for that defense.
I agree with that. By the way, was 2015 the year that Jay kept asking Paul Gunther why they didn't recover fumbles?
Yes,
was that
it
the
was.
year?
It
That was the
was.
year, right? Where like what's your problem?
NFL record streak. It was a legitimate question.
Your guys are intercepting passes, but why are you not recovering fumbles?
We never did see the recover fumble drill in
Yeah, no.
practice.
No,
You're
we
right.
They could have been using the football on a stick for that. It would have been a perfect
favorite
use for
part of
the
practice.
football on a stick. All right, let's go. Player you
Yes.
are most buying or selling. Either way, you can go either direction.
All right, can we go both?
If you got it, I mean, I'm
I
not
do.
here to
I
restrict
do.
you, Skinny.
I'm going to go first buy because that's always the positive. I'm buying Cam Taylor-Britt's a Pro Bowler.
All right.
I'm buying that. I think year 3, he did enough last year to get on some radars. That's always what you have to get on, right? You got to get on some national radar.
Yeah.
I had him on a prediction column I did at local12.com as the breakout defensive player of the year. I'm really bullish on him. I think he's a terrific player. So I'm going Cam Taylor-Britt as a Pro Bowler.
Like that.
I'm buying Orlando Brown Jr. as a Pro Bowler. If you take out the sample size where he was playing hurt, I think he was a different player last year. More importantly, kind of tying into the discussion of versatility, different options, different styles of offense, under center, play action, bootleg, off script. I think a main character in the way that people talk about the Bengals will be the offensive line. And I think this is a year where there will be a rewriting of the narrative about the Bengals offensive line. I like their tackles more than the Chiefs. The Ravens offensive line has them up at night. I think that when, we won't be talking about the big 3 or it won't be a superstar running back, but I think that elevates a window for a guy like Orlando Brown Jr. to become the face of an offensive line that gets some respect.
I mean, they've certainly invested in it, and the question has been, have they invested properly? At some point, they need to go prove that. I think each of them in their own way have in spots.
They were more than enough last year when Burrow was
Yeah,
healthy.
they weren't the problem. I
No.
certainly didn't feel like that was the case.
All right, I got a guy I'm selling.
All right.
And I'm going to get hated for this, and hopefully there's no raw eggs or tomatoes, and be ready to duck.
I mean, there's a kitchen right there.
There's a kitchen. I hate to do this because the injury thing just bothers me as I'm selling T. Higgins. I hate to do it.
Well, look at
I
that.
hate to
It's
do
ire.
it.
Why are
know
you
it.
selling T. Higgins? You got this man is so mad at you
I
in the
know it.
Cincinnati Reds jersey.
I know it.
He is.
So-
it might be T's. Bro, are you related to T. Higgins, sir? Because
So-
he is not happy.
Here's what I want. I want T. Higgins to play 17 healthy games and put up ridiculous numbers.
Yeah.
Because he can certainly do that. But boy, then today he pops up on the injury report with a hamstring on a Thursday. That's not a good sign, period. It could be minor, it could be a little tug, but for a guy who's had hamstring issues, man, that's not a good place to be on the first injury report.
You're letting today the injury report that just came out a
And
few
the
hours
history.
ago.
And the T
There
history
is
of
no
injuries.
doubt. There is a history. There is no doubt. There is a history here. That man would like to see you.
Oh, I know
in,
that.
in
I
the
see
alley
that.
after
I'm
this. Is that a Scott Rowland jersey?
Again, I want him for 17 healthy games and go make as much money wherever he
Absolutely.
can make it. I hope that happens for him.
Yeah.
But
It's the only. I said it is the most important number in T. Higgins' life right now is 17.
yes,
He needs to. If he goes and plays, no one doubts who T is when he's
Absolutely.
out there at all and what he can bring. I don't think that's a problem. The only thing that would change his number in March is going to be that number, is going to be the 17. If he can't get there again or his snap count ends up low and people can hold that over his head, because you can't really hold anything else
And
over
Paul,
his head.
it's not like today totally. The narrative is there because of, going back to college, it's there. And then today, of all things, that means it happened in the practice.
And what's the one injury that lingers the longest, the most unpredictable?
Calf.
Thanks for that sober reminder.
No problem. Hey, no calf issues this year. Pittsburgh has the calf issue with
That's
Russell
right,
Wilson
yes.
instead.
It's
I was
their
going to
turn.
send our stories on calf injuries last year over to our Steelers writer. Charlie, what do you got?
I feel like I have a worse feel for the Bengals defensive tackle group than I thought I did entering camp. I still have no idea whether they're going to stick with the core 4 idea they had. I think they can't make BJ Hill a third down pass rush guy this year, focused in that role like they did last year. And I'm not going to sell BJ Hill like Jeremy did, even though it was a great take by Jeremy. What I'm going to sell is Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson being ready to do what the Bengals drafted them to do. I think it's kind of the flaw in the plan. The Bengals, has Lou ever liked playing a rookie? but they force themselves to be reliant and to have to live with the types of moments that, Jenkins had against Tampa Bay and that McKinley Jackson never had a chance to have. And if they can't stop the run, then you need to shift the whole defensive line room around, or you have to, start playing, KJ Henry and J. Tufele, or especially a guy like Tufele or Carter, in roles they were bad at last season. I still have no idea how they fixed that.
There's no question. The whole problem here, what I'm interested to see is there's a solution in Sam Hubbard.
Sure. Yeah.
Because, we heard this from Lou way back in the combine time before free agency, and it was hinted at of what about kicking Sam Hubbard inside in pass rush situations and getting, at the time, Miles Murphy. Yeah. That's where you're getting extra snaps for him and rotating him through to keep guys fresh. Any sort of passing situation, you can bring in now Osai and have Hubbard move inside to give rest to BJ Hill, Jenkins, Rankins, however you want to fit that. Because if you get those guys into the mix a little bit where you're feeling a little better about your depth at edge, you could take
play
50
games.
to 70 snaps over the course of the year off of them in some of the most important downs, particularly late in games. And you have no problem with the idea of Sam Hubbard pass rushing from the inside, I don't think, in those spots.
Remember that Seattle game last year where Lou Anarumo said, I told the defensive line, you guys have to go win it. And he realized they're gassed.
Yeah.
They did go win it, but they were gassed. And they need to find a way to take snaps off all those guys.
Yeah.
The core four things just got to be dead.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on Joseph Osai rushing from the inside, too. They've done that before.
Yeah.
He's stronger. He's healthy. He's a speed guy, but he's another one. Put him in there on third down. Take some of those snaps off the other guys.
Biggest September of any player on the whole roster, Joseph
Absolutely.
Osai. All right. Predictions for the season for you guys. Skinny, I don't know if you're on the record on Local 12
I am.
yet.
I
You are?
am. I did.
So you're just going to reiterate
Yeah.
what everyone here's already read.
Yeah, of course.
So there's really no
Yeah,
reason.
no. So I always put games in you go down the sheet, like win, loss, whatever, each game. I put games in likely win, likely loss, swing game columns.
Okay.
I had 7 likely wins, 3 likely losses. And it's funny, for the last 8 years, 1 likely win turns into a loss, 1 likely loss turns into a win. So they always kind of even themselves out.
Sure.
So in the swing games, you go 4-3, maybe even 5-2 with the swing games I listed. 11-6 seems fair. 12-5 seems plausible. Anything above that would be like, wow, this team, everything clicked right. Anything below that would be catastrophic injury to multiple guys, in my opinion. To your point earlier, this team went 9-8 with Joe Burrow dealing with all the stuff he dealt with and the defense being almost epically awful. I mean, if you're 9-8 with that, 11-6 seems like, honestly, probably doing a little bit of disservice. I'll go 11-6 because that's what I went, but 12-5 I could be easily talked into.
And postseason?
Yeah,
Are you just not? Are you going to
no,
abstain?
No, I'm not going to abstain. You know me, dude. I don't. You know me. I don't.
You don't go Joe D's
abstain from
route.
anything.
No.
This especially. But to the point I think that Joe made, you get the players. I could give you a case for the Jets, the Dolphins, the Bills, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Chiefs. Probably not for the South winner, the Texans. Although you can make a case. So all of those teams, but if you go 11-6, you're probably not the 1 seed. And sadly, the team that plays tonight in another division is probably the 1 seed again, and you got to go there again. I got the Chiefs beating the Bengals in the championship game.
You got the Bengals in the championship game.
I
though.
do.
That
I
deserves
do.
something.
I do.
You deserve a lot of credit for that. It's not every year your team ends up in the championship game. In fact, it doesn't happen all that often.
It'd be 3 times in 4 years, which would be a hell of a thing.
Yeah. What do you got, Charlie?
I have the Bengals finishing the season 11-6. I think when it comes to the playoffs, here's how I look at it. The Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bengals, whose young defensive core pieces are the best? For the Bengals, is Cam Taylor-Britt, is Miles Murphy, and is Chris Jenkins. Are these guys going to be franchise-changing players in the same way that Kansas City's young defense kind of low-key won them the Super Bowl last year? The Ravens have their own, situation, kind of a reborn defense that they're trying to make work as well. I think the Chiefs have the best young defense right now, so I think they beat the Bengals in the AFC title game.
AFC title game for both you guys.
Yes.
Look at this. Look at this. Let's hear it for Richard Skinner and Charlie Goldsmith. We have 1 Super Bowl prediction so far. You guys weren't willing to go all the way there.
See, I saw yours. Jay, what was your prediction for the Bengals?
Can-
Where do they go?
We got to save ours.
Can
Okay,
I
save
do
yours.
something real quick? I
Sure.
just gave my prediction. The Bengals are going to win the Super Bowl.
There it is. It's so easy to do.
I know, Charlie. That was
I just
great.
wanted to know what that would
easy
feel
to
like.
do. So easy. Let's hear it for Skinny and for Charlie Goldsmith. Let's hear it for him. All right. All right. I have 3 guests that I'm going to bring up for our final segment here. More great friends of the program, of course, from ESPN, Ben Baby. Let's hear it for Ben. From the Cincinnati Enquirer, Kelsey Conway. And from CLNS Media, Mike Petraglia, Trags, everyone's favorite man. What's up, buddy? Doing great. Welcome up to the stage. Good to have you guys here. You've been waiting patiently while all of your takes have been kind of stolen from you. I hope you have some more back in the wheelhouse. This is going to challenge you guys. I know that you guys can go deeper into the take world than anyone. That's why I saved you for last, to go to your deepest, darkest takes here. Also, I guess we'll just kick it right off with you, Trags. You're sitting right next to me. Last year, you predicted the Bengals to win the Super Bowl and go 15-2. I just wanted to make sure I remind everybody of that. It's okay. Everybody was in. That was a different time and place. Everybody was living like that.
Joe Burrow was going to play the entire season.
You did.
He did not. And I do think the representative part of the Bengals season was the 4-1 stretch when they beat Buffalo, when they beat San Francisco. And had that been projected over an entire year, which is what I thought when we did this show a year ago, that's where they'd be. Maybe not 15, 14-3. I'm not going there this year. That's a tease.
You know what I was told about any take that goes wrong? Just keep doubling down on it. Keep telling everybody how it was actually right, and they'll just get tired of bringing it up.
Rationalization doesn't always work.
You can just deny all the way to the end.
That's not my style.
All right, Trags, what is your most confident take right now about the Cincinnati Bengals?
I think they have to come out of the gate 3-1. And I know that there are those who feel week 1, I hate this cliche, but it is out there. Every NFL year, week 1, you never know what you're going to get. It's all about making in-game adjustments. They absolutely, positively need to win on Sunday.
Trags,
an inferior.
I don't want to have to do this, but I cannot believe you are going must win, and we're sitting here before the season has even started.
That's why you have me up here, Paul. That is
must win. If they lose, the season is over. Cancel it. Don't go to Kansas City. We lose Saturday nights of pops on the road over and over and over again. The Bengals are quitting the season if they lose to the Patriots. It would feel that way. I will say this is a truly awful New England Patriots team that they have no business, not just losing to, honestly having the game even be close. That said, that's pretty strong to go must win for week 1. I appreciate it.
Why do you have me up here?
Hot Take Central. Love it. Kelsey, what do you got? What's your feeling about this team?
Am I supposed to give a take or just
give me your take? Give me your favorite take right now. What are you feeling the most? Where are you at?
I definitely don't have as strong of a take of if week 1 doesn't end up in a win, the season's over, that my friend here does. My thoughts.
Any thought?
I think the thought that I have is I'm so curious to see what the Bengals defense looks like, because we can see Joe throw the ball in training camp and spend hours talking about if his wrist looks okay, if it doesn't look okay, and do the things that we do like crazy people. But you can't really evaluate the defense until you see them tackle real life in a real game. And there's so many unknowns. I mean, it feels like every year we put some cornerback into the Hall of Fame with how good they play it in training camp. So, I mean, we hope that Dax Hill is everything he's been, but, there's just a ton of unknowns, and I'm just fascinated to see if they're better than they were last year, because towards the end of last season, it was really bizarre how different of a unit they looked like.
The defense wasn't good last year. And as far as additions, you look around and say, I don't know what's totally different here outside of, we've talked so much about communication and Von Bell and Geno Stone, and that's what they're selling. I'm buying it. Like, I'll listen to that. I can hear it, but it's not like, they got JJ Watt from the Steelers or they brought in some hammer. And they do have guys specifically up front that are a year older. They have Von Bell, who's a year older. And I think you can believe in a lot of what they're doing communication-wise. But, I think the idea that they're going to come out and be this great unit, it's not off the table that they're bad again. I mean, that's certainly on the table.
Yeah, so I don't think I don't have a take. I just have a bunch of questions, and I would say that's my biggest question, specifically the defensive line.
Why is nobody talking about the linebackers? I get the sense that in the offseason, Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt, not enough people have been focusing on their role last year and how they need to improve to help stop the run. I mean, we all heard about how porous the Bengals defensive front was last year trying to stop the run. The linebacker fits, and Lou Anarumo talked about this today. They were not good. And he talked about it all the second half of last season. They didn't fit to stop the run. The linebackers have to play better this year. I think they will because they're more confident in what's behind them.
I think nobody's talking about them because that's the way they like it. Neither one of those guys demands attention, and they're not out there trying to sell themselves. And I do. I mean, I think they were a very important part of this. I go back to last year, and I know we were so hyper-focused on Joe Burrow's calf, but do any of you remember having red flags last year that defense was going to look like that after what we saw in camp? There were questions, like, is Dak still going to be okay, this and that? But you never saw that coming, and now I think there's a lot more confidence that it's fixed, but it can still surprise you. And until you see him do it,
right,
I'm not buying it until I see it happen.
We need to go back to what we all were saying about Nick Scott at this show last year. Because I think everybody was like, you know what?
Did we vote him
I
as
think
the MVP?
Nick Scott's going to get this thing centered up. It's going to be okay, right? I think that was what people felt. And then you watched a couple of games and you said, oh, no, this is not going to be good. This is the problem. And sure enough, it turned out to be a huge one. Do you have a player that you are buying or selling, Trax?
Yes, Chase Brown, big time.
Buying.
I am buying Chase Brown.
Buying the Chase Brown stock. There we go.
I think I'm going to, I don't know how many fans out there intimately recall the 1988 Bengals, but I'm going to throw a name out there.
I wasn't born.
Are you going to go?
I'm very fully aware of this, Kelsey. James Brooks.
James Brooks. You're going James Brooks comparison.
And I think Chase Brown can have that kind of impact. Look, this offense needs to be more diversified, more versatile. Those are a couple of the buzzwords we heard Dan Picture throw around.
Explosive.
And explosive. But I think, look, we've heard explosive for the last, 2-3 seasons, that the Bengals just don't have explosive plays. Well, the other thing that I think has been a problem with the Bengals offense, they're predictable. They have been way too predictable. It's either Jamar or T or nothing at all. And the Bengals and Pitcher are trying to get away from that. I think Chase Brown is the key to doing that. He, I think, is going to have over 700 yards rushing and over 700 yards receiving. That's my take.
Wow. Flaming hot take. Look, they certainly hope so. I actually, we were talking about this the other day. My take in that regard was that you're going to see Chase Brown and Zach Moss both go over 600 yards and have 4.4 per carry, which the last time that was done was 1988 with Ickey Woods and James Brooks. Because I just think they'd like it that way. And I think they will have an equal share. And what has hurt them in not getting explosives is when teams are daring them to run, they've gotten 3.9. I could pull it up, whatever it was. They weren't getting the explosives from Joe Mixon. They were getting efficiency.
What were they getting? What were they getting?
They were getting efficiency.
They were getting what was there.
They were getting what was blocked, according
Correct.
to Brian Callahan. And they need to get more than that. They need to make guys miss on the second level 5 to 10% more, because if you do that, that's where all of your numbers and your explosiveness can come from. And now you have the defense shaking a little more in their boots. But they have to do that. I mean, they have to pull that off and find a little more explosiveness in the run game. Is there anybody you are buying or selling?
Oh, I feel really unprepared. Jeez. I don't like next to Trax. He's got like stat predictions. Gosh, buy or sell?
I mean, Trey Hendrickson had a lot of sacks. He'll probably get more. You could probably keep buying Trey Hendrickson stock.
I am buying all the stock in Cam Taylor-Britt. Okay,
Cam
How about
Taylor-Britt.
that?
That's
I
fair.
think he is going to take the leap this year, and you are going to be hearing more and more people talk about him as one of the better cover corners in the NFL. And I also think that he's going to become more of a leader in Cincinnati's defense. And I think next year at this time, we're going to be saying Cam Taylor-Britt the captain. So I'm buying all the stock in Cam Taylor-Britt, and I'm selling the stock in Andre Yoshivas.
Whoa.
Oh,
That is a
wow.
take.
Wow. Hard grown from everyone on
Hear
that.
me out. And it's nothing. He had an excellent camp.
This is the one we
But-
re-rack next year.
But I think I need to see it. And like I said, my biggest pet peeve is glorifying people in training camp, because as we've all seen, training camp has become less and less important in terms of what they're able to do.
Fair.
And it's all about just getting them to the finish line. Zach Taylor's job is to manage them so that they are healthy come week one. And yes, you can look great in, pads and a helmet against guys that can't tackle, but can you get open in the slot and be that consistent and catch the ball every single time Burrow throwing it your way? I just don't know. So I'm not ready to hype him up and say he's the immediate Tyler Boyd replacement. So that would be why I'm selling him.
That's fair. I think the one question that I think is really interesting with Andre, I think he can give you more vertical speed. He can give you maybe a little bit more explosiveness and different things out of the slot. But can he find the soft spots in the zone and move the chains? Tyler Boyd was a master of that. That's why he didn't come off the field. And that's what made this offense go so much for so long, is his ability to get the 3rd and 5 so often. Can Andre Yoshivas learn? I mean, he's never played slot until a month ago. He'd never even done it before in his life. And he's going to go out there and comfortably read and be on the same page with Burrow from inside. That's the question for me, because if you mess that up a few times and Joe's like, then all of a sudden they're Trenton Irwin's out there running routes again.
I like the Cam Taylor-Britt pick. It's the second time we've heard that, because not just I expect him to be so much better this year, but I think you're really going to see the Bengals push him out there. He's going to be mic'd up. He's going to be more of a presence on their social, the way Orlando Brown is walking around the mic. They're going to sell that guy's personality, because why would you not? He's an incredible personality. And you get him out there, the face, the voice, the character, all that, and combine that with the play. That's how you get to a Pro Bowl. It's not just having a great season.
Right.
You got to have people know who you are outside of Cincinnati. And I do think you're going to see the Bengals push that heavy this year.
All right, let's fire off some predictions. Go ahead.
Oh,
No, I'll say.
Here
No,
we
what?
go.
Actually, Kelsey, you go first. Let's save tracks for last. Just let him have this moment. Go
I
ahead.
was about to
Kels.
hit the drum roll.
No,
I look forward to
save
this.
save the drum roll. We have lots of things up here.
I look forward to this every year, by the way, just so
Yes.
you know. I think that in the Cincinnati Enquirer on Sunday, you'll read in the print paper that I picked them to go 12-5. But in recent weeks, I've kind of changed my mind. So I'm going to go with 10-7.
Wow.
Make the playoffs or no?
And
Yes.
how far?
Yes, I have
Sneak
them
in.
definitely
That's
make
got to
the
be a
playoffs.
7 seed sneak in. You're feeling problematic. You're not feeling great right now. Why would it move? Why would it move two games less?
I think it's less about them and more probably just, I think in my head, I'm like, the schedule is so easy. And then I realize, that they're all NFL players. And talking to the players in the locker room today, like Ted Karras said, one of the New England defensive tackles, their main nose tackle, he said he's the best run stopper in the NFL. And just because I don't know his name, they're still really good players. So there's some games that on paper you're like, yes, Bengals should win. But I feel like there's going to be one or two that maybe I missed that I put them at 10-7. And honestly, until they can prove that they can start fast and get off to where they are, because you hope Jamar Chase plays, but if he doesn't, do you still feel as good? I mean, yes, because top to bottom, Bengals should beat the Patriots even if they don't have Jamar Chase. But I'm just going to back off it a little bit and be more realistic. So it's less about them, more so just about me realizing there are probably some other teams that I'm not giving enough credit to.
Trags is not going to give those teams any credit.
The Bengals are going to return to the top of the AFC North.
Yeah.
They're going to finish 12-5.
It's a little low for you.
12-5. I have to be a little more realistic this year, Paul. They've got to show me that they can play physical.
Wow, they've got to show Trags.
They've got to show me that they can play physical with the other physical teams in the AFC North.
How excited are you for the Tennessee game?
Don't get me going. That was a nightmare of a day all the way around. But that's another story for another day. Yes.
Soul-searching time.
Anyway,
what do you got, Trags?
we got 12-5. We got
Then
the
what?
Bengals with the number 2 seed in the AFC.
Okay.
And they are going to wind up hosting the AFC Championship. They're going to win the AFC Championship, and they're finally going to win the Super Bowl.
Way to pander.
People are so happy.
And they are
Trags
going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
beat the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl.
You know,
I mean,
Trags does know what a Super Bowl champion looks like.
why would he know that?
I haven't
Did you
brought that
cover
up
the
the
New
whole-
England
Because he
Patriots?
covered the New England Patriots. I never knew that. Trags, I love how predictable and reliable you are to always come through for the crowd, to give them what they want, and they
We
want a
are
Super Bowl.
here to serve the consumers of the product that we provide, the coverage, and that is just my way of trying to appease them in a realistic way. I'm not just saying that to be a fan. I'm saying that because I believe that.
That's great. Jay, what is the prediction that you have for them this year?
Okay, so yes, the schedule's easier, but they do still play in the AFC North. And we've seen, how many times have you seen it? Bengals have been really good. Steelers have been really bad. They split, or they go 0-2. Browns really bad. Bengals really good. They split. I think realistic expectation is to go 3-3 in those AFC North games. So then you're talking about what do you do in the other 11? And I think they can go 8-3 in those other 11. They go 11-6. Wild card. Ravens win the division. Bengals at Ravens in the wild card game, and the Ravens win.
Okay. Boo.
Realism. The
Disappointed
truth
so many
hurts.
people. Yeah, I have the Bengals going 12-5. I think their schedule is not being talked about enough, and I know we can talk about, you never know, things change year to year. This fourth place schedule just sets up so nicely for them to take advantage. The difference to me between 12-5 that I see and a potential 10-7 is, are they another disaster in the North? Is it 0-5 in games that matter again, or are they going to get moved around and owned in the trenches again like they were last year in the division? If they have righted that ship and they can split or better, then they're in that 12-5. They can be the number 1 seed. I have that as the number 2 seed behind the Chiefs, and I don't think they make it to the AFC Championship game. I think they're in that mix. I think that they're in that mix in the divisional round. I actually have them losing to my total long shot weird obsession that I have, and that is that the New York Jets are going to make a run this year. Aaron Rodgers is going to stay healthy. I don't know. I have the Jets going into Arrowhead and winning in the AFC Championship.
Two words.
Yeah.
Robert Salah.
Yeah, he's got a great defense. They've got players. They've got skill position players everywhere. If Rodgers is healthy, why not? Why not? I just think it's anybody's game in the AFC. We talked about that earlier. It's anybody's game in the AFC when you start talking about divisional and AFC championship games between Rodgers and Mahomes and Burrow and on down the entire line in this conference. There's just so many good quarterbacks that you're flipping coins out there. You even mentioned Josh Allen. I mean, there's just so many different directions that it can go. So if you're in that's my point, though. If you're in the mix where every year you're in that divisional round, you have the exact type of franchise and team that you want to have. And when Burrow has been healthy, they've been there every year, and I expect them to be there again. And maybe it'll be your year, and they will win the Super Bowl. Well, I want to personally thank everybody for coming out tonight. I want to let you all know we have our Bengals Growler bet that we're going to do, and the Bengals Growler bet for the game on Sunday is going to be rushing yards allowed by the Cincinnati Bengals defense. Send your submissions into the Growler Podcast at gmail.com. And at one of our live shows that we do down here at Nation BetMGM, you can come on down and you'll have a bunch of beers on us at one of our next live show is Monday Night Football against the Commanders. We will be here at 4:00 with all kinds of giveaways and chaos, and the cornhole game will be back out. It'll be everything that you've seen before. So we are very excited to have that. Thanks to the Ravens and the Chiefs for delaying kickoff to 8:40 so we could get some extra takes off and keep on rolling. But it is time for the NFL season to begin. So we're going to go ahead and watch some real football. We'll be hanging out here having some drinks. Thanks again to all of you guys for coming. And let's say thanks to the bar staff and everybody here at Nation and at BetMGM for helping us put this on. Have a great one.